Thank you so much, and good evening, everyone. My name is Oladosu Adenike. I'm an ecofeminist, climate justice activist, and I advocate for the restoration of Lake Chad and for a green democracy. So I'm happy and excited to be here tonight. I have a story, an everyday reality for someone like me from the global south. I am from the part of the world where we account for the lowest carbon footprint, but bear the biggest impact of the climate crisis. I'm not saying this because I want you to feel pity for us. Neither am I saying this for you to just imagine our everyday struggles. Rather, I am saying it because I want you to act. It is also an injustice unto us that the $100 billion annual commitment from global North leaders are yet to be fulfilled. You don't play politics with climate change, else it's going to consume us all. In Africa, climate change is no longer a threat, but a reality. Invariably, climate change is now a global reality. And what scares me most is that climate change is the only pandemic that has no vaccine. And if we don't build back better from COVID-19, then we are doomed. In Africa, climate change is no longer a threat, but a reality. Invariably, climate change is now a global reality. I'm not only worried about the future, but the present, because any action we take will bind on us all. The hope therein is that the climate movement has the face of young people, because the youth are tomorrow's adults. Remarkably, women and girls are at the forefront of the fight for climate justice. I advocate for a green democracy that seeks to include the voice of our environment, because if nature is left out of our democratic agenda, women and girls will suffer the most. Hence, the more we involve women and girls in adapting these systems, the better our democracy. And right now, nature is the most powerful asset the world needs in normalizing our world from crisis. I remembered when I was an undergraduate student. I heard about the 276 schoolgirls that were kidnapped from their school in Chibok, Borno State in Nigeria, which is the closest state to the shrinking Lake Chad. This led to an international outcry of bring back our girls. This was the incident that made me an ecofeminist, because to some of these girls, it could be a point of no return. Our society must be a safe place for women and girls to have their voice, action, and perspective in making our world a better place. There are two schools of thought. The first claims that to tackle climate change, we need more and better democracy. The second school of thought asserts that tackling climate change in fact requires the suspension of democracy altogether. There is a meeting point to this, which is ecofeminism. The direct ties between the nature of Lake Chad and the democratic instability in the region shows the extent to which environmental rights are indispensable in our world today. Likewise, countries with the most several impacts from climate injustice tends to have the weakest democratic institutions. Also, the Niger Delta crisis in my home country has been a sad reality to my people for decades of untold stories of injustices. The oil spillage has infringed into our human rights due to the fact that we are unable to secure drinking water, access to agricultural land that has turned our land to be oil-ridden soil, health complications, and eventually the loss of livelihoods. The decades of environmental destruction by shells and other multinational companies has led to the rise of several groups to take to the protection of their lands against unsustainable activities. Crises like this led to people taking arms against their governments. This is how climate change drives conflict in my region too. Currently, it is only in sub-Saharan Africa that climate change drives conflict. And not just conflict, but armed conflict. These are the several insecurities that arose from climate change, just like that of Madagascar food crisis, that has been named by the World Food Programme as the only country where climate change and not conflict is leading to food insecurity. I had a current interaction with a climate justice activist from Madagascar through my YouTube channel, an activist in addressing the intersection between climate change and food insecurity. The possibility of conflict is the outgrowth of overshooting the threshold of scarce resources caused by climate change. Not acting on climate change is a crime against human rights because we cannot have secured rights if our environment are not safe for all. Also, postponing climate action into the future is the most dangerous thing to do because for every degrees of warming, there is always a greater or equal impact of climate change on humans and biodiversity. In a world impacted by climate change, how do we quarantine? How do we isolate when flood has taken over our houses or when drought has taken over our farmlands? We can no longer predict the rainfall pattern, which is a danger to food insecurity. Likewise, permafrost is melting, the iceberg is on a free fall, losing its gravity every day, the glaciers are melting away. This is not normal. It is not normal when we have to forcefully migrate. Neither is it normal if we can't recover greener. I once read a news headline that described the science as failing following the unprecedented floods in Germany that claimed lives and destroyed properties. I see that statement as a straight denial of the existential threat of climate change because the science has been telling us what to do, but we are not listening yet. Another of its kind of report has been released by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, of which I found to be disturbing because it further emphasized that climate change is a reality and no longer a threat. Climate change undermines our existence. It is not enough to declare climate emergency, neither is it enough to sign agreement. The starting point is when we walk the talk. We put those commitments or agreements into real action. Also, I have never seen where voluntary commitment ever makes a move for an action to be completed. Sometimes I wondered why we have to target 1.5 degrees of warming rather than aiming for less than 1 degree of warming. The world is not warmed to 1.5 degrees of warming, yet we are faced with unprecedented crisis of our time. Then what do you think it will happen if the world is warmed by 1.5 degrees? If we do not act and we wait for 2030 or 2050, we are setting the pace for a warmer world. Also, if it takes the world to get vaccine for everyone to be safe from COVID-19, what will it take the world to keep us safe from climate change? If we don't stop the climate crisis, it will stop us. We can't stay on the fence anymore. Likewise, any decision we take now counts for the present and the future generations. By the end of this decade, we must have either win or lose the race against climate change. So the cost of acting now is far important than the cost of acting late. This is what need to note, that if Africa is not safe, definitely Europe is not safe. Hence, nowhere is safe until everywhere is safe. We are in a race against time, and the time to act is now. Thank you.